So I rarely record myself anywhere outside of my knitting room, but I am sitting here waiting on a very good friend to arrive for a dinner that she and I are having. So I thought I'll take my knit night on the road. So I thought this particular video would be more of a knit and chat. And then once we knit and chat, then we can go on our merry way. So if you have some knitting and something delicious to sip on, sit down, join me as I pull up my knitting, and I'm parked so that you know I'm not knitting and driving, and let's talk. So let me readjust the camera so that way, ooh, woo, you can see me. So my name is Rachel. I am a knitter, crocheter, a mom, a teacher, and a wife. And today I wanted to knit and chat about the joys of knitting, as well as celebrating my 3-year anniversary with this particular craft. I started down this particular journey 3 years ago after randomly coming across an Expression Fibers Arts video, where the video populated my algorithm. I was looking for something for crochet, and it said how to knit faster if you're a crochet person. So I was like, oh, I want to know more, even though I didn't. And long story short, I ended up spending the whole evening knitting and having a blast. And here I am 3 years later, constantly knitting and making something new. And today, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this knit and chat really quick is because I am working on a secret test knit, so I'm doing my best not to show the garment as I'm adjusting it. But today I had the wonderful opportunity to show the skill of crocheting and knitting machines to a few of my students, as well as 2 little friends who joined us. So we're still in school. Our last day of school, my last day of school with my students is on June 24th. And so on the day of the filming of this, we still have one more day left. And believe me, the crowd was very thin today in the building because students have successfully completed their finals. Grades are due today, so there really wasn't any incentive from any student to be at school. So with that said, I decided to do something unique. I made it like a little school party. I bought food and I bought all my crafting gear. So I stuffed up, I bought this huge tote at New York Sheep and Wool, and I crammed as much yarn and other tools that I have. And one of my coworkers brought her 2 daughters there, and she was looking, she was like, wow, you have a lot of tools. I was like, you are so smart to call it tools. Yes, I do. So it was so much fun. So we got a chance to crochet. I'm trying to see if I actually have it with me. Oh yes, we got a chance to crochet, and I showed them some Tunisian crochet hooks that I had purchased from Amazon. It was one of those random things I purchased. I don't need Tunisian crochet hooks. When I do Tunisian crochet, I typically do I use a 6mm or 8mm hook. Like, those are the 2 go-to hooks. Very rarely will I use anything smaller than a 6mm, but most of the patterns that I do are usually like a garment base. Mostly not garment. I should say it's a shawl base or a blanket. So no, I didn't need that size hook. I didn't need any of those hooks, but I saw it on Amazon. I was like, I'm going to buy it. And I didn't need to buy it, but I did anyway, which we all have been guilty of. So anywho, I showed it to this adorable little 5-year-old, and she's like, you know what, this is just amazing. I was like, it is amazing, isn't it? So it was just so much fun to sit there and crochet with someone who's never done this before, who had a genuine curiosity, who really wanted to learn. She wanted to know exactly what I was doing and why I was doing it and why the fabric was coming out the way it was. And it was really nice to break down the mechanics of it as well. And I was really excited to see her enthusiasm, and her older sister was just as curious and wanted to know more about it as well. I had a blast teaching them that. And then later, one of my students, they saw, I have a Sorrento knitting machine that I love making hats that I'm going to donate. I know everyone and their mother is doing a Musselboro hat, which is basically you do this unique cast on either circular cast on, and then you knit in around and around, and you can basically knit to any gauge, and you find out how many increases you need to do based on the gauge that you're getting, and you knit this really long tube, and when it gets to a specific length, then you start decreasing, and then once you decrease, you take one end of the tube and you insert it into the other end, and voila, you have a double brim hat that adds an additional warmth, excuse me. Well, the Sorrento knitting machine does the exact same thing. The only thing that is different about that is obviously with the crown. And so I can either, pick up all the stitches and add it to the knitting needle and decrease, or what I usually do is just I will cut off a long piece of string, weave it all through the live stitches, and then cinch it up. And I really like that cinch look. That's my preference for hats. I've never been a big fan of like intricate crowns. So I showed one of my students, a couple of my Sorrento knitting hats, and she was like, I want a hat. So let's make you one. So I had some Lion Brands polyester wool, and it's basically all of their recycled materials made into a new form of an acrylic yarn that's supposed to be more eco-friendly and whatnot. So I took that yarn and gave that to her, and she made a beautiful little hat that she was so proud of herself. And I was like, oh, would you like to put like a little poof on it? She's like, no, I'm good. So it was really just a wonderful joy to once again introduce this craft to these young people who were willing to put down their phone. Like, she put down her phone and engaged in this, and we had a conversation and we were talking about different things, and it was just so much fun. Like, I can honestly say that I do this every semester with my students, and every semester it just puts the same amount of smile on my face, because I know that at least one student will walk away with a finished product that they are really proud of. And there's been instances where some students actually keep doing this craft I've introduced to them. And yes, I love teaching, don't get me wrong. I'm a lover of what it is I do. I could not imagine doing anything else in my life, but I have such a joy for knitting and crocheting. Like, I can spend hours talking about it, doing it, reading it, watching it, going to various festivals and other things to talk about knitting and crocheting. And so to bring that same passion to my students, that same joy, I can't tell you like how it fills my heart. So I can honestly say that with all the trials and tribulations that happened this year, and they were many, it felt really good to successfully teach my students how to do this particular craft, and to see so many of them laugh and smile and actually try their best to engage in this. And I can't wait to do this again next semester and hopefully have the same outcome as well. With my knitting projects, I am still working on this secret test knit. I have 6 inches on the body already, and I have to do another 5.5. So I should be finished with the body, because it's 5.5 for the body and then 4 inches for the hem. So I should be finished with the body, my hope, by the end of this weekend. And then I plan on focusing on socks. This summer, I don't know what's going on in Massachusetts, but it's been hot, and I am 43, and I don't really enjoy the heat the way I used to. I used to be that person who would love to sit outside, had no problem walking around and enjoying that warm weather. I am all set now. I cannot wait until it is freezing cold. I'm in front of my fireplace and I got my knitting in my hand. I'm just not built for it anymore. Maybe my future, because in my 20s and my 30s, I was always saying, like, yeah, let's go to the beach, let's do this. You can't pay me to go on a beach right now. My husband has to go out of his way to convince me to go to a beach, and I'm talking about bribing me with yarn, offering a foot rub, offering to take care of the boys. Like, I just hate going to the beach, and it's come to a point where I only will go once a year now. Like, since I turned like 38, 39, I've just noticed that my enjoyment for it is not as much. And I thought, like, maybe because I have kids, but I love taking my sons to the beach. I've always had really challenging but memorable, loving experiences with them there. But I'm all set. So now that I have shared that long tangent about how I feel about going to the beach, I also recognize that since it is so hot, and we do have AC in our home, which we're fortunate, because most houses here in Massachusetts, especially anything that was built between 1900 and 1989, doesn't have central air and heating and air. We, for whatever reason, most properties are like that, but that's another story for another day. But anywho, I found that I can still comfortably knit on winter items, and I really want to have this sweater, my artist shawl, finished before the winter months, because I can see myself wearing or using both of those items. So those are two projects that I'm hoping to finish before the end of the summer. Obviously I have to finish this test knit by July 14th, I believe it's the due date, so I'm definitely going to have that done. But the artist shawl, obviously there's no due date for that, but I would like to have that finished before October, because I can totally see myself wearing that shawl, during the early fall season. In terms of what I'm going to cast on and for a garment after this test knit is done, I don't know. So since I'm feeling a little indecisive, I wouldn't say that my knitting mojo or crochet mojo is gone, but I'm really am not feeling as motivated to do a sweater or to do a cardigan. So because I'm not feeling as motivated to do those, I decided, I was like, you know what, how about July be my month of like small accessories? I will use this month to make socks. So hopefully the camera will focus on it. I just started this pair of socks for my cousin. She loves the color orange. Her granddaughter suggested that I make her grandmother these socks because her grandmother loved the socks I made her. So I was like, yeah, sure. So I'm going to knit these. I was making another pair of socks. I just fell out of love with the pattern. I felt I was doing it wrong. I really wasn't engaged with it, and the pattern and the yarn just weren't in sync. I have self-striping yarn, and I really want to celebrate the yarn, but that pattern, I don't know, it just wasn't giving me good vibes. And I'm not a very strong sock knitter, so I have to do more I'm gonna say this, I should do more vanilla socks until I become more familiar with like the structure of socks and can like foresee certain things that happen when the project doesn't go as well as it should. So this is a pair of socks from a pattern in my Summerly socks. I purchased this book about over a month ago now. I purchased the book. It has several patterns in there that I'm casting on now. So initially for this particular pair of this particular yarn, I was going to do this ribbing sock, and the more I thought about my cousin, I'm like, she's not really big on texture, and I don't want to knit her a pair of socks that's going to make her feet uncomfortable because she's very sensitive about her feet. So I decided to make her a pair of socks that use the finagle heel. I feel like the heel will be comfortable for her, and it's okay that I use a heel that I feel more comfortable with. I prefer the short row heel. The tutorial by Denise DeSantis from Return Squirrel is my favorite, and I also prefer the finagle heel. I do like the Afterthought heel as well. It's not my go-to, but I have used that and like the outcome of that. I don't like the heel flap. I get it why people like it, and I definitely recognize that that it makes the sock a little bit more durable, but I just don't find it attractive. So that one's put to the side. I'm just going to do the heel that I like to do, and if the sock wears out, I can always fix it or reinforce it in some capacity. So I'm not mad at myself about that. In addition to the socks that I'm going to be doing for my Summerly book, I have made some yarn purchases. My goal is to stop buying yarn, but I really wanted to, for my birthday, to buy some Suella yarn. I really love the yarn from their company. I have used their yarn in other projects before, and although I did Frog 1, I just didn't do my gauge and it came out wrong, and so that's the reason why I have to do it over. But I love their yarn. I love the presentation of their yarn, and I finally found a pattern that it will allow me to really like test my knitting skills. So although I'm not feeling very motivated to make a sweater or a garment for some reason, and it's partly because of these podcasters and I'm feeling a little influence. I really would like to make a t-shirt. I have yet to successfully make a t-shirt, and I have yet to find a t-shirt pattern where I'm just like, I want to make this. I hope to make the freestyle sweater. It's a 3/4 length sweater that can also be a tee. So I do have yarn for that. I plan to make make that out of a cotton yarn that I purchased from Wool & Company using the Barocco cotton yarn. That's all set. I also want to make a toasted tee, but I really don't like the pattern. I don't like the finished garment of it. I don't like the ribbing. I'm not gravitating towards that. That's not my first go-to. I also have the slip-on vest that I really would love to make. It's an all-over textured vest that has a very interested front, and I think it will look great as a vest as well as a top. And I have this Sewello yarn that I frogged for a different project that I think it would be perfect for this, because the yarn, the pattern calls for DK weight. So I can see myself using it both for the summer as well as for the fall and maybe the winter. So those are two projects that I would like to cast on for the month of July as well as August. But those two, I'm not like I gotta cast it on where I'm feeling this urgency. Like for this test knit, I knew instantly when I saw the pattern options and when I signed up for it that I wanted to cast on for this test knit. I wanted a simple raglan sweater, and that's what this is. I wish I can show you the pattern. I'm telling you right now, it is one of the easiest patterns I have ever read and implemented. The shaping of it is beautiful. It is definitely a go-to vanilla sweater that you can make over and over again and add your own flavor to it. Really well done. So I'm super excited about that. So that one was a no-brainer. Same thing with the shawl. I cast on the shawl, that artist shawl, didn't even think twice about it. I realized I had all the yarn in my stash. I immediately gathered it and started casting on and never looked back from it. But I don't have that same enthusiasm for anything else right now, so other than my Summerlee sock patterns. So I'm going to just focus on the Summerlee sock pattern, and I'm hoping that with the yarn I've acquired as well as with the patterns I have recently acquired, because I've also made some pattern purchases, that I will get the spark of inspiration. And until I do, I'm just going to continue to work on my shawl as well as my socks. I don't want to cast on something unless I know I'm going to give it the time and energy. I am super excited about my Arctic sweater. All the yarn has finally came in, but I realized with that particular sweater, I am going to have to sit at a computer and work on that. That is not a grab and go project, which is perfectly fine. Maybe not a grab and go at first. So I'm waiting until I know I'm going to be sitting and knitting for a long period of time. Whereas this project and my sock projects, it allows me to be mobile. And maybe that's a part of it. Maybe because this summer is a little busy for me. I am going to be working throughout the summer. Again, teachers always have a second job. Please do not think that we are home, that we are just chilling or on a beach, sleeping or whatnot. I wish my salary was enough to afford me the opportunity to do absolutely nothing for the rest of the summer. But unfortunately, that is not the case. And I am fine with that, because I am very excited about the opportunities to work with other adults. I forgot how much fun it is to interact with adults who are just as nerdy and passionate about teaching as I am. And when you're a principal, you don't really have that opportunity. As a principal, you are their evaluator, you're not their friend, you're not their peer. I'm able to merge this together. But more often than not, as a school leader, you are frequently put in a position where you cannot engage with the person in that particular level. More often, you have to be very stringent about your expectations, and you can't how can I say this? You have to be very specific with the person about the mistakes that they made and your expectations in order to fulfill their role in the job that you hired them for. Whereas an instructional coach or a leader, it really affords you the opportunity to be personable with the person, identify what their passions are, and help them bring those passions into their role that they've been doing. And so that's one of my favorite things about teaching these AP Summer Institutes, because it gives me the opportunity to develop my instructional leadership skills, as well as support teachers who are sincerely wanting to thrive in this course. So with that said, with the schedule I have this summer of teaching those different courses, I will feel like I'm on the go. So that's more than partly the reason why I'm not jumping through the whatever the expression is to do another garment right now, because I really want to make sure that I have the mental energy to do my job as a instructional coach. So I have my socks patterns picked out. I got my yarn for it. I got this beautiful yarn that I shared in a previous video that I got from Wool & Company. So excited about both of those. So I'm doing that. And I also have my self-striping yarn that I got from Biscotte Yarn too, that I cannot wait to cast on. And I think that's it. I don't have any other yarns that I'm super excited to cast on for sock purposes. I did, however, recently purchase some yarn from Sewella, which is what I was just talking about, for a garment that I made 2 summers ago. So I made this garment 2 summers ago, where I was not as successful with the garment. I mean, it worked, but it didn't. And I ended up gifting the garment to one of my students who loved it. And I was reintroduced to the garment because the designer made a similar version to it. I will try to link the garment into this particular video. And if I'm actually savvy enough to edit this, I can even include a picture. Fingers crossed. But anywho, I successfully made this particular garment and loved it. But then I was like, it doesn't look right. And I would like to make a summer tee. And what I like about this one, that there's no, it's just, I don't know, I think it could work. And so my goal is to do that particular garment and to use my yarn that I just purchased from Sewella, as well as my yarn that I purchased from Needles at the Ready, and work on that. So as I'm sitting here knitting, waiting on my friend to arrive for dinner, I just realized that I have so many ideas about what I want to do, and the reality is I just don't have enough time. And so because I don't have enough time for anything, I'm going to have to sign off, because it is now 6:30 and it's time for me to go meet my wonderful peer in order to talk about life, liberty, and our lovely families. And so with that said, thank you for joining me in this little knit and chat session. It's not a typical podcast, but I just wanted to knit and I wanted to chat and wanted to share what I got going on. And I hope that you are enjoying whatever project that you're working on right now. Ooh, these children can't drive. They're about to get in a car accident. Let me get out this car. I hope that y'all are doing well, and I'll talk to you.